We're going to be tying up a fly pattern known as the butt monkey. To start, we'll grab some olive marabou, measure it to be a bit longer than our hook shank, and secure it tightly to the back of the fly. Continue securing it forward by folding over the marabou, wrapping towards the head of the fly, folding the marabou back over, and securing it tightly in place. Once again wrapping back towards the back of the fly. Snip the excess free and grab some crystal flash. Here I'm using olive. Secure about 4 strands to one side of the fly. Fold it over and secure them to the other, snipping them to length to be a bit longer than our marabou. We'll then grab a zonker strip, place it on top of our fly, pulling the fibers to the side to reveal the leather underneath. Use this to secure it tightly in place without catching too many fibers in the process. Secure tightly. Fold the excess over, adding a few wraps just in front. Next, we'll grab some staz, securing it tightly to our hook shank and wrapping towards the head of the fly. With this complete, we can begin wrapping it forward in open spirals until we reach our thread. At which point, we'll secure it in place, taking thread wraps both in front as well as behind, and snipping the excess free. Pull everything backwards, putting a few securing wraps over the top, taking our zonker strip, folding it over, and securing it tightly to the head of our fly. Snip the excess free, and cover up your tag ends. Whip finishing to hold it tightly together once complete. Snip your thread free and use a razor blade to cut your zonker strip to length. Using the razor blade creates a clean cut while not touching the excess fur that'll protrude over it. We'll then paint over the head with some UV resin to add some durability and clean up the look, and fix it in place with a UV light. And this will make up the back half of our fly. We'll then grab some wire, insert it through the eye before removing it from the vise. You can then grab a bead color of your choice. Here I'm using peacock. Also, we just restocked the Mainly Outdoor websites with some more hats, including this brand new black variation. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can pick one up, listed in the comments below. We'll insert our bead over the wire and place a new hook in our vise. Resecure your black thread to the hook shank, snap the excess free, and wrap towards the bend of the hook. Here, we'll grab the tail that we just created, using the wire to secure it tightly to the hook shank. If you want to extend the tail, you can add a few more beads, but when securing it, you want to ensure that it's snug, but not too loose that it'll get wrapped around the front hook. You can check by simply wiggling it around and seeing how much movement it has. Once happy, we'll continue securing the wire forward, wrapping up towards the hook eye, stopping just short of it. Once happy, we'll grab our wires, folding them backwards, and resecuring over the top of them. This will help ensure that our trailer can't pull out. Snip the excess free using the back of your scissors, and add a dumbbell eye to the head of the fly. To secure this, use several thread wraps in a figure 8 pattern to help lock it in place. The goal is to make sure it stays in place and doesn't spin around the hook shank. To help this, I like to finish off by doing figure 8 patterns underneath the hook shank, between the dumbbell eye and the hook shank itself. This helps tighten up the thread wraps that you just laid in place to help maintain its position. Once complete, check to ensure it's locked in place, and you can add some extra insurance by painting it over with some super glue, repeating this process on the wires themselves. Next, we'll start wrapping towards the back of our hook shank and create a dubbing loop. With this complete, we'll insert some olive dubbing. Here I'm using an ice dubbing in a blend of chartreuse and copper. Spin it up and brush it out before pulling the fibers backwards and wrapping it over the back of the fly to create a dubbing ball. This step isn't necessary, but adds a nice hot spot that helps blend in the front of the fly to the trailer. With this complete, we'll secure it in place, snip the excess free, and brush it out to give it a nice, buggy look. Once happy, we'll wrap back on it slightly to help give it a brush-back look, before wrapping forward and creating another dubbing loop. This time, we'll grab a small section of the zonker strip, inserting it into our dubbing loop, so it looks something like this, before trimming the leather free. We'll repeat the process of spinning it up, brushing it out, and wrapping it forward until we reach our thread. With this complete, we'll secure it in place, snip the excess free, and once again brush it out to straighten out our fibers. Wrapping back on it slightly once again to give it a brush back look. With this complete, we'll tie in some more olive staz, securing it tightly just in front of our dubbing balls, wrapping your thread forward up towards a hook eye, followed by your staz, once again in open spirals. Secure it in place using your thread by taking thread wraps both in front as well as behind, and snip the excess free. Grab another zonker strip, secure it over the top just behind your dumbbell eyes, and snip the excess free. We'll then cover up our tag ends to create a smooth base for our next steps, and use the razor blade to trim the zonker strip to length. You want to ensure that the fibers aren't sticking out past your back hook, otherwise they'll tend to get caught up in it when casting. Next, we'll add a throat to our fly by grabbing some copper dubbing and securing it just behind our dumbbell eyes. Fold it over and secure it tightly in place to give it a brush back look. And with this complete, we're ready to make our head. To do so, we'll grab some deer hair, here in the color olive, select a small clump about the size of a pencil, and insert it into a hair stacker. Stack it up so that the tips are all even, and brush out any insulating underfibers. For this first clump, we'll take one loose thread wrap around the deer hair itself, followed by one underneath. Continue this loose wrap, pulling in an upward motion to pin the deer hair to only the top section of our fly. Continue to tighten it in place, holding onto it with your fingers to ensure it doesn't move. Once complete, we'll trim the excess free, and cover up our tag ends. We'll then grab another clump of deer hair. This time, we want it to spin around our hook shank. Do so by taking one loose wrap before pulling it tightly to help spin it around our hook. With this complete, take a few wraps throughout it to help secure it in place before folding everything backwards and wrapping towards the front of the deer hair. With that complete, we'll add one more clump of deer hair, once again taking a loose wrap and tightening it as you go to help it spin around the hook. You can use your fingers to aid in this process. With this complete, we'll secure it in place by taking a few thread wraps throughout it, before brushing everything back and finishing at the head of the fly. Whip finish. To secure everything in place, snip your thread free and grab a razor blade. We'll use this razor blade to help trim up the head into shape. To do this, we'll cut the underside completely flat before rounding out the upper body section, leaving a small collar towards the back of the fly. Take your time with this process, as it's best to do a little at a time so you don't mess up and cut off too much. Continue to trim up the head until the upper section is slightly cone-shaped, leaving a small collar of that initial deer hair that we tied in. And this is an articulated streamer that can be used for any large predatory fish, called the butt monkey, created by Kelly Gallup. It's a fun one to tie, and its articulated tail section make it extremely lifelike and attractive to fish. I'd give this one away, but I tied it up recently to use for my recent bull trout fishing trip. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next one.